Yeah.
But the ammo is not good, right? It's not, we're worried about flooding the economy with subsonic SX ammo, but it's sold out in 14 seconds, every mechanic reset now. And it's like, yeah, sure, I don't want the economy flooded with M61, but M80 subsonic, this was the stuff that like people would comment in my YouTube comments like, you're supposed to be the one teaching new people and you're using that absolute garbage ammo. And now they're like, well, we can't flood the economy with it. And I'm like, freaking pick one then. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, a show dedicated to talking about all the poggers things in life, like music, content creation, and video games. I'm one of your co-hosts, JesseKazam, an Escape from Tarkov content creator.
And I'm Veritas, and I'm at my fucking wit's end with this fucking game. And I'm going to say straight from the fucking get-go that if anybody wants to whine about me being negative... Close your fucking tab right now, because you're in the wrong place. If you want happy time, let's jerk off the game for being amazing and not having any problems and never being frustrated. And yeah, no, fuck that.
Straight from the get-go, 100%.
Oh my god.
What's going on, bud?
It's been a rough couple of.
How long have you been live today? Like, how long have you been gaming?
90 minutes.
Oh, that's all it takes?
Yeah, I mean, I went through, 1 million rubles, an entire fucking Scav junk box worth of shit turning into rubles, which then I turn into SVDs, which then I turn into, like, 1 kill for a quest, and then I turn into I'm back in the fucking queue again. Well, not the queue, but, back in
queuing for a raid.
I just feel like I can't win anything. I feel like I can't fucking survive anything. And I feel like I'm playing like every shot I have is a fucking unreal head tap. Like I'm at the top of my fucking game, and there's just nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Every kill's out of my control.
I saw like the past few days you had been getting on early. Do you still feel like you're noticing that difference of when you hop on at 5 p.m. versus when you hop on at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a completely different game when there's no players involved and when you avoid scavs. It's fucking easy. It's easy when you're playing us offline single player PV no one else game, but literally like it's crazy how like a light switch, dude. I cannot explain to you how drastic the difference is. Like even if you look at the raids where I die beforehand, I was comparing the end screens. And you see a raid at 11 a.m. You'll see 6 minutes into the raid, I'll get a kill. 11 minutes into the raid, I'll get a kill. 13 minutes into the raid, I'll get a kill, and then maybe I'll die.
Yeah.
And then, but if I play at 5 o'clock, it's 45 seconds and I get a kill. 1 minute and 15, I get a kill, and then I'm dead at 1:30.
Yeah.
And it's like over and 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 over again.
Yeah.
Like you just get in, you're surrounded by just scavs running around like fucking clowns.
Yep.
Like, it's actually frustrating at this point how fucking stupid they are, because all they do, it's like, imagine World War II, but half of the time, there's literally just clowns running around going, woo! In the fucking way, and it's like, they're doing it in your face, and you're just like, get out of here.
Yep.
Like, they're not even a threat, they're just annoying and distracting.
Yep.
Until they are a threat, and then you're dead.
Instantly, yeah. I feel that like the past 2 days in a row I've let them stack up because we've talked about this many times, I don't like playing reserve. So I have all the reserve quests. I got to do the bunker, I got to kill the raiders underneath, I got to kill the scavs in the bunker, I got to kill Gluhar, I got to get shooterborn in heaven shots, and I was like let's just do it. And Bro, the people, it's don't hate the player, hate the game, like hate the game for sure. But it's like people who play reserve know how to abuse those spawns like crazy. It was exactly that. It was like 4+ hours of like 45-second raids. And I was just like, I'm losing my mind. You know what I mean? Because either I get a kill right off the bat and I'm like, oh, I bet that guy had a fun raid. Or most of the time it was like spawn, poke my head up from the bunker and just somebody else's shooter born in heaven shot. First attempt every time. And I was like, I just can't do it. You can't get anywhere on that map. Everybody that plays that map knows the spawns, and the spawns are so bad. Like, I had a few 17-second raids and I was like, I just can't, dude. I can't. It's brutal.
And like, it doesn't help that no matter what you do, like this gets a little bit meta outside of Tarkov, but just like as a streamer, no matter what I do, the moment there's any amount of frustration, whether I say anything or not, right? Even when I keep my mouth shut and I bite my lip and I'm just like, and I just click through and whatever, it's the fucking 15-second raids over and over and over and over again. If I keep my mouth shut and I don't complain, then chat gets filled up with, I just got here. Wow, he looks salty.
Yeah.
Where'd all your money go? Hey, dude, sell that moonshine. You'll double your money. Say, hey, dudes, why don't you sell this? Hey, dude, why didn't you do this?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do that? Oh, you should have done this.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have done
Should've
that.
checked
It's
that
like,
spawn. It's like, yeah.
And then you ignore them, and then they just keep fucking at mention you again. Hey, sell the moonshine. Hey, sell the moonshine. And it's like, if you're just like, dude, thanks for the advice, I don't need the advice. Oh wow, what a dickhead, what an asshole. Then someone's like, I just got here. What's he talking shit to his chat again? And it's like, it's just a never-ending. I cannot say anything.
We were actually talking about this the other day. Like, I wish there was like a culture around like an unspoken rule on Twitch where it's like you gotta put yourself in the shoes of like when you die, even when you like when you die in Tarkov, it's like 30% of the time it was your fault. You know what I mean? And then 70% of the time the game was ridiculous. But even when it's one of those times where you died and you like know you messed it up, you whiffed a shot, you should have crouched and you proned instead, you fat finger something. Like we all mauled, like we all get pissed, you know what I mean? And it's like, I wish we were talking about this the other day on stream. I was like, you got to give me like 60 seconds. I wish I could stop chat, like full blown, not even emote only, stop frozen.
Well, you put an
chat.
emote only, it'll just be the salty emotes, and that's literally worse.
Exactly. So it's like full stop on chat, 60 seconds. I'm going to say something that's not true. I'm going to say this game sucks. I'm going to say I hate it. I'm going to say I hate my life. I'm going to say these scavs. I'm going to say I hit that headshot when I didn't. And if you give me the 60 seconds, by second 45 or 50, I'll have forgotten I said those things and I'll be okay. But if I say them and then you come in and you're like, wow, dude, this game made your career, and you say you hate the game.
Why are you still streaming it if you hate the game, dude?
You like it's like now I went from like 30-second gamer mode to like I'm mad, and now it's so much harder for me to recover back to a positive place. You know what I mean? And it's like we gotta give, because it's like when you're alone, you get to mauled or be mad or whatever, and then nobody says anything except for your friends in Discord, and then you hop into another raid. But it's like, man, we just need that 60 seconds because we'll let it roll off and kind of get the composure back and hop into the next one. But when it's brutal. And for sure, I can already smell the basement gamer right now typing on his keyboard. It's like, well, that's what you sign up for when you be a streamer. Part of the job, bro.
What do you expect when you play video games for a living? Like, you just get treated like a fucking monkey in a cage.
Yeah. So it's like, I know that there are some people that would never accept that because they're like, you put yourself out there. This is what you deserve. But to the like, logical, real thinking people in the world, it's like, man, just give the homie a few seconds to release it, and then I'm back. You know what I mean? Because that it's just been it's just rough, you know what I mean? Especially after a day of death when you're dying over and over again, and you know what I mean? And it's like you die. The worst is when you die because you played bad, but after 5 raids in a row of the game cucking you, it's like, oh, the one raid I actually had a chance to kill this guy, you know, I messed up. But then I'm gonna be even more mad. So it's like we gotta give that 60 seconds.
Yeah, and the thing about like every other video game in the world is that like you're punished for your mistakes, but you're rewarded for, you know, your skill, and you can adapt and you can learn. And like even literally today in like within the first 4 raids, there was some bullshit out of my control, and then it's like based on that alone, I'm gonna try flipping it and do the opposite. Nobody told me, hey, what have you thought about? I'm just gonna do the opposite. Just give it because right now like I said, I feel so helpless no matter what I do. So the first raid, it was on Shoreline, and I spawned like right under that stone archway, which is actually like a decent spawn.
Yeah.
By the time I got to where like the helicopter is in the front, there was already 3 people in fucking East Wing, someone in West Wing.
Yeah.
It's like, so and I have the SVD kill players quest. So I'm like, I just have to run in.
Yeah.
And because like if I wait, I'm gonna miss the opportunity to kill the fucking players, which that happened on the last raid. I was like stalking a guy and trying to be careful, and then I stalk him for 15 minutes, and then finally I hear him die to the sniper scav.
Yeah.
And it's like
I should have just W keyed. Yeah.
I should have just W keyed like an idiot, right? So then the first raid, literally I do this, 300 IQ fucking jump out the window, amazingly kill this dude, kill him. I fucking wait. I look around. I go indoors. I look down the hallway. I go outdoors. I look all over the place. I go to loot him. And then I experience a bug during looting, which fucks up my whole rhythm. I'm like trying to put a dog tag in my sit case, which has 20 empty slots. But for some reason, it was just like, it wouldn't work. So I'm like trying to do that. And I'm like, well, okay, whatever. Then bang, I get headshotted while I'm looting. And it's like, I took 40 seconds to clear the area, even though like, but see, and if I had just gone to loot the guy, I wouldn't have been punished.
Yeah.
But when I do go to loot right away and I get killed, well, what do you expect? You didn't clear the area.
Yeah.
As if it's not a coin flip that when you hear shots, someone's going to come. If they're within 30 seconds or whether they're, 45 seconds away, it doesn't matter. It's a coin flip, right?
100%.
So it's not like you can clear every angle. And even when like it was out in the back, kind of right around the corner. So like there's a million windows that you can't even see through and whatever. So it's like, even if I were to sit there and peek, I would just be sniper bait. So it's like, I might as well just fucking run over the body, loot, and try to get away. Well, of course I die. So then the next raid on customs, I go in and I kill a dude, and it was like a fucking beautiful, I was just using the stock SVD with I forget which site it is. Not one of the magnified ones, just one of the little ones with like the chevron.
Oh, like the OKP7?
Yeah.
I love using that on there.
And so I kill the dude, and I'm like, okay, I have a couple options. One, I can go loot him. He looked like he was decently geared. I'm like, I could go loot him, or I could stay up on. I was on the roof outside of where Marked Room is. So I shot him, and he was like down near the road. Or and I could stay up there and kind of like camp the body a little bit and wait a little bit. But again, you run into the issue of if he's alone and nobody saw it, then now is the time to loot. But there's no way I could possibly know.
Yeah.
So what I was doing was going through all the windows, looking, trying to clear, going back, going through the windows, looking, like waiting for, and like 90 seconds goes by. And then I go back and look at the body, and it's been fucking looted.
Oh, yeah.
I run over to the body, and it's like, sweet. So I don't even like get the reward for my good thing. And then I don't even remember how and then that raid after, I got a couple more kills and stuff, and then got cucked by Scav boss, like literally came around the corner. There was a bunch of normal scavs running around, acting really fucking weird. I killed them, and then, come around the corner from the back of, there's no noise, come around the corner to the back of gas station, and there's fucking 6 Scav boss guards, and they just, and you're dead.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, fuck me, right? Like, and it's, I spent so much time bandaging, healing my stomach, like just doing all kinds of bullshit in that raid to the point where there was like 6 minutes left. And then I get nothing from it except for the level 6 dog tag in my gamma.
Yep. Yeah, we were talking last week about how different it feels early morning versus night because of like how many players can be in a raid. We didn't even touch on like how much that makes it harder to loot, because like the amount of times you do all of the like right things from like an immersion perspective, the amount of times you do all the right things and get out with the loot as a solo is so low. The amount of times that you kill somebody, assess the situation, clear the area, make sure he doesn't have buddies, clear the broader area of snipers. The amount of times that you do that, either you die to somebody else, you go to loot him and somebody that was pushing the shots for their kill quest kills you while you were looting them, or somebody else loots the body. You know what I mean? You kill the guy and you go, if he has a teammate, he's going to be holding that angle, so I'm going to flank. During your flank, that dude just flops on his buddy's body, takes the loot and dips, and you're like, I wasn't even gone that long. If I had held the angle, I would have seen him flop on his buddy's body and kill him. But doing the right thing, you're so often punished. Playing with a, like, I play with a duo, it makes like a world of difference. I hadn't even considered how brutal it is to loot as a solo, because there's just when there's 32 players, not really, but when there's 18 players on customs, or 17 on shoreline, they're all pushing shots, man. It's like mid wipe, we're all pushing kill quests, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to.
You can tell from, like I said, when I was comparing the kill screen.
Yes.
You get a kill 6 minutes in and then 11 minutes in. The 5 minutes between kills, as opposed to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
100%. So it's like, and then of course all the geniuses in chat that all have 1 billion rubles, all they tell you is, oh dude, all you need to do is go choose this one dead server and go nighttime.
Yeah.
And then, go in with no meds, no armor, a pistol, and a giant backpack, and just fill your bag full of whatever. I did that for 6 hours and I've got all this money. And it's like,
yep, 100%.
Congratulations, you played Minecraft PV, not even PvE, for 6 hours, and now what do you have to show for it? A bunch of money, and but so I just can't bring myself to play the game 50% of the time in a way that is just completely and utterly boring to me, to then maybe enjoy the other 50%. But even then, it's not even going to be that. It's going to be
100%.
Like it is now, where I go in with, I had the, level 5 armor, fucking level 4 helmet, good ammo, whatever. And I just got one tapped in the head with M62. And it's like, well, what am I? Nothing I did. Nothing I brought in with me, no decisions I made were like, I can't point to any decision I made and say, oh, if I had done this differently, right? That's just what feels shitty about it.
100%. In a game like in the poster child, like the game that would otherwise be the poster child of like, die, learn from your mistakes. It feels so bad to be like, I feel like, maybe there's a lesson to learn there, but I feel like I made every single decision as good as I could have made it with the information I had at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to say in chat, when there's 1, there's 2, when there's 2, there's 3, when there's 3, there's 4. But it's like, when you're in raid, bro, it's like, okay, well then when do you loot? Is it an 11 man, or can I loot after killing these 3 guys? You know what I mean? It's like, it's, after we die, it's always like, there's always another, but it's like, but I gotta loot sometime. And when I, with the information I had, I made the smartest decisions I could, and I died. It's just like, it's brutal. It makes me, just as like a random thought I had, I wonder if smokes would be like a new meta for looting, because like on one hand, when you think of like a smoke grenade, especially the new one, the old one is gray, the new one is like bright green, you know what I mean? It's like, do you want to draw all that attention? But it's like, just like we were saying, statistically, that attention has already been brought. I shot my gun, which means people are pushing me. You know what I mean? So if they arrive and they see a plumed up smoke and they don't know if there's a body in there, they don't know if I'm in there looting now or if I already looted. You know what I mean? Crawl in there, loot up, and leave. Like, I wonder if that would be a good strat.
What it'll end up being is being just like grenade bait.
That's true. You toss a nade in there,
Because that was the 3rd raid of the day where I
That's so true.
had some god tier shots, just like a bunch of one tap headshots. Just
Yep.
like I felt like I was playing on point. My reaction, my aim, all this stuff is great. I cleared out half of Reshala and his crew on up at the top of Fortress, and all of a sudden I hear somebody running, and perfectly like localized the sound. The dude's running and plink headshot, and then I see his other boy come running, and he was standing behind a metal thing, and I'm just like standing there waiting for him to like peek, and I'm just waiting, and then all of a sudden explosion, and I'm dead. He fucking right clicks an impact grenade, and what do I do? There's nothing for me to do. I can't do anything. I killed 27 people with god tier headshots and I was holding the angle, knew exactly where he was.
Yeah.
And I just explode.
And it goes back to what we were saying last week about like there's enough things in the game. There's enough like great equalizers in the game. When we were talking about impact grenades and we were talking about how they're broken, we were talking about how there's enough other things. There's like leg meta rounds, there's the regular grenades, there's the percent chance that your PS pens and Alton, like there's already a ton of things in the game that are like the great equalizer that make you feel like, well, there was nothing I could have done there. And when that experience is like salt and pepper, when that experience happens every once in a while through your thing, you kind of like are okay with it because you're like, sometimes I'm the one that threw the impact nade, or sometimes I do that. So when you're having a really good day at Tarkov and somebody impact nades you, or somebody leg metas you, or somebody you're like, whatever. It's just that, like we keep talking about, when those things are wrapped up in the other bullcrap of the game, the Scav boss, literal Terminator 360ing you, the searching bug that causes you to lay on the body a minute longer than you would have. It's so much harder to accept those things as part of the games, like the impact nades and all that stuff, because it's like it's so hard to catch a good break of survived raids. You know what I mean? It's hard to catch a break of survived raids playing the way the game was kind of intended to be playing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then all that goes to be said, you end up in your inventory again, and then you're doing a quest that requires that you use shotguns. It's like, okay, cool. So I want to use AP. It shows it's available. You go to buy it. It's sold out. So bug number one, fucking in your face. Then, and you didn't even buy your 40 round or 60 round limit, whatever insignificant. You can buy 40 rounds or whatever it is, right? And you put 20 in your gamma, 20 in your pocket, and you go bang, and then you die, and then you do that one more raid. So then now you're no more AP ammo.
Yep.
And then you go to buy flechette, and you can't buy flechette because it's all sold out. The global limits, right? Not even your individual limits. So then you go to use like Magnum Buck, and then you come across the guy with a fort and an Alton. The one guy you'll see all week with a fort and the Alton when you don't have the ammo. Yep. That'll pen, and you don't have enough time to react to it and try to fucking leg them or whatever. So then you die.
Yep.
And then you come back to your stash, and then you're like, all right, maybe I'll do the SVD quest. And then you go buy the 10, 20 round mags or whatever. You buy 3 SVDs. You spend 1 million rubles kitting them out. You're like, okay, cool. The SVD, let me put a grip. Let me do whatever. You pay a bunch of money for the ammo, you spend all your fucking money, and then you go in and you die to a bunch of bullshit, and then you come back and, you can't buy SVDs anymore. You bought your limit of 5 because you died, within an hour, you went through 5 SVDs. After the first one, you can't buy 20 round mags, so you got to use the 10 round mags. So if you come across a 2-man and with a 10 round close quarters, you're going to die because the thing's got so much recoil, you're just gonna be like, and then you have to reload while the other dude peeks you. Then you end up back in your stash, and now, I can't buy a fucking Salua. I can't afford the meds, so that I gotta go and sell shit. And then you deal with the flea market bullshit.
Yep.
And this week, like literally, I found red key card.
I saw that clip, by the way.
And I also found what do people just go around and like, Veritas found red key card. I imagine that people just go everywhere and have to spam it.
Yeah.
And then I also found that the sports car key, whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh, the Marin key?
Yeah. So I found that at the end of like a super long. This was one of those 10 a.m. raids that actually went well, where I killed a bunch of people. I wiped out Scav boss. and there was like 4 minutes left in the raid, and there was one set of footsteps that was like left lurking, and I was a player scav that had the fucking Marin key in their pocket.
Jeez.
So I killed him. I thought it was like the Yotoda key.
Yep.
And I almost dropped it, but chat was fucking freaking out, so I grabbed it and didn't realize, And then it's like, okay, cool. Let me go and try to. If I want to sell it for 30 million, it's a 20 million fucking ruble fee. So instead, you got to deal with the annoying bullshit of the flea market and the all this other. It's just like never ending.
No
matter where I look, no matter what I do, it's just like another annoying thing that, and I know there's already people that are typing in the comments that are saying, stop whining, blah, 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 blah. Listen, a man's got to vent,
Yep, 100%, dude. 100%.
Normally what happens is if I get to vent, it's not like I can vent to my wife. She doesn't want to fucking hear me talk about Tarkov. And after I'm streaming, I don't want to even think about Tarkov. So then all I can do is just like vent to chat. And even if there are a bunch of people in chat that like understand, quote unquote, there's just still a bunch of shitheads that make it miserable because they just want to be toxic and tell you why you're wrong and So this is the only chance I get to fucking vent my
100%.
Frustrations. So I'm gonna do it, and I'm sorry if it turns you guys off,
dude. I think that most of our audience finds it cathartic because they experience most of this stuff too. At least that's the feeling I get. And that's really it. It's like venting. That's what a lot of sometimes Twitch chat doesn't understand. It's like you venting about that stuff doesn't mean that like Veritas thinks there shouldn't be limits on good ammo because he can't buy it. It's like when you've been dying to bullcrap all day, you've got 6 quests you don't want to do, and every single ammo you'd go for every single one of those quests is sold out in 60 seconds. You get frustrated. It doesn't mean that I think everybody should be able to buy 200,000 rounds of AP20 but that's how people take it. You get frustrated.
We've been talking about for years about how there's too much ammo in the economy and everyone has it, and how but that's not. I'm not the guy that's flooding the economy with AP when I go in with 20 rounds and die with it.
It's like I can be frustrated at a thing, and I think that's the thing. People get really up in arms when we criticize things that should be in the game, and we're not saying they shouldn't be in the game. We're frustrated at them because when all the stuff that's in the game that shouldn't be in the game, the crazy desync, the cheating scavs, the bugs, the queues, the fleet, then it makes that stuff feel so much worse. You know what I mean? And so it's not like we're like, oh, they should remove all guns and we should just hand slap each other. It's just like, it's just frustrating, and it's good to vent it out. And like so much of this podcast is actually considering and talking about the actual more appropriate ways to fix these things, like fix the AI and all these things feel better, fix this. But sometimes you got to vent. You know what I've been thinking though, a ton is like, this is kind of like adjacent to what you're talking about. Like, I know that a lot of the frustrations that like you've been experiencing are just a lot of the things compounding on one. But I still think we've talked about this before. And just like when I was talking about how much I hate reserve and all the stuff you're talking about with like Shoreline specifically because of the resort and the way the spawns work and stuff like that. Like, it just makes me think like I'm just talking out of my butt here. I'm not saying this should be in the game, but it just makes me crave the system that the Cycle Frontier had. Like, I know that the maps right now are like too small for that, but like Shoreline would feel so much better if a Shoreline raid was 4.5 hours long and you just deployed where there were players. And so like right now your spawn, especially when like you're going for those kills, right? Like it's just like what we said where like with the old flea market system, everything was just a ruble amount. You weren't like, oh, I found a slick. You were basically like, oh, I found 600,000 rubles. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, I found 300,000 rubles. On maps like Shoreline, your spawns are always in reference to resort. Oh, I got the 3rd best spawn. So when I get there, there could be somebody here and there could be somebody here. And you just learn to play that way. And the best players in the game, and I'm not saying those players aren't good, but the best players in the game are just using that knowledge. You know what I mean? Like 2 people could be technically skilled, you know what I mean? Like on PC games, but this is his first raid in Tarkov or this first raid on Shoreline, and this is this dude's 900,000th raid on Shoreline. It's like this guy's gonna win just because he knows where the spawns are. So like I just crave that, like, you spawn in and I have no idea how long this raid has been live. I have no idea where the people are. I have no idea if resort's been hit or not. Let's go do the thing. Because then when you kill a guy, because once again, right now, if you're playing the meta game of Shoreline and you get to resort first, you kill the guy that gets to resort second. If you kill him in a really rough spot to loot, well, you know that like guy number 3 is probably coming up this way. Guy number 4 is probably running across Skybridge, and guy number 6. And so it's like, well, I can't really loot him. There's so much of it that's just like not unknown. It's all just like this weird meta game of the timing of the spawns and if they SJ6 or not. And I just crave a Tarkov where you spawn in and it's just like everybody has an equal amount of misinformation, like of just like not information. I just don't automatically know where everybody is, how long it takes for everybody to get from where they are to where I am. It would just like make so much of this feel better. You know what I mean? Like, especially because of the whole time difference where like there's so many more people. Because so many of these issues happen when the servers are crowded and all the spawns are full of 2 or 3 people and everybody just like deploys, boom. Reserve is just as bad, if not worse, than Shoreline for that. Everybody just like spawns in, goes, oh, I got this spawn, turns left, and then it's a battle for this spawn. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I know the maps are too small, but it would just be so much better. So much of that stuff would be at least lessened or more rare if you just didn't know where everybody was. Always.
Yeah. I think a prerequisite for that is like would be a whole bunch of like fixes to some issues like sound and other stuff where
for sure
because and I agree with you totally. I'm just thinking about like how much of the cluster fuckery-ness there is late day versus early day, and I'm now looking at some of the differences, and I just if you're taking away your ability to have any amount of predictability or like planning or whatever, then in my opinion you should leave it up to your ability to perceive and respond.
Yes, that's actually an incredible point. Yeah.
So if you don't have the ability to perceive and respond and everything is entirely random, then what happens is you're just going to run and then you're going to get you won't be getting killed by the guy that you know spawned over there and he knows you spawned over here. It's going to be you're getting killed by some other everywhere else.
The coin flips just become more random. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's definitely like, you know,
a very good point. And there's the issue of like loot generation, right? Like a 5-hour Shoreline raid, all of the locked keys in resort would be open
in the first 90 seconds,
the first 30 minutes. So, you know what I mean? You not being able to pick, you just clicking Shoreline and deploying, you're not knowing if you're deploying hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, hour 4, hour 5. Like, you know, the cycle, I actually don't know how the cycle did locked rooms because there were locked rooms in the Cycle Frontier, so I'm not sure how they dealt with that, but all outside of the locked rooms, like there was like a loot regeneration mechanic where if loot was picked up and after a certain amount of time and if nobody was around, it would just like, you know, whatever pool was this military tech, okay, we're just pick another thing, you know what I mean? So
I
that's another question
if,
for sure, but it would just make the game feel so much better.
So back when we had talked about, I don't remember, I never ended up making that open world video. I think I just got ended up getting sidetracked with everything, with a bunch of other stuff. But I don't know if this was something that was like in my head that I repeated so often that I like, that I think I talked about it, or if I actually talked about it. But the idea of, you know, imagine if theoretically, if all the maps were connected and you just spawned in at any time. The whole idea was because of the number of players and the size of the map, the number of players that like I had kind of theoretically positioned all over the place, what you ended up with was, you know, like when you go into customs, at least back in the day, everybody had marked key, right? So everybody was basically going for like marked room, or they were going to go check for scav boss, and like that's it, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got 30 people or 50 people all spawning in on the whole map of Tarkov, maybe only 2 people are going to go for like marked room.
Yeah.
So like really you have way fewer people that are going for any individual thing.
Yeah.
Which means there's going to be so many more rooms that are just unlocked later into the raid.
Yeah.
So that makes me think about like, even with the current single individual maps, if the raids were 2 hours long, and they only had like the number of players that we have that all spawn at the beginning now, maybe that number got spread out over the course of like an hour.
Yeah.
What you end up with is, even during peak time, you end up with an experience that's more like early in the day Tarkov, where there's you're only ever going to come across like 2 groups, and a group might be a solo. 2 like, individual, like I said, whether or not it's people or whether or not it's squads.
Yeah.
Between where you're going and then, where you spawn, where you're going, and then where you exfil. And that, within a half an hour raid, 2 engagements and some looting and stuff just like tends to feel good.
For sure.
Compared to 7 engagements, barely any time to loot and, heal. And, I mean, those raids can be fun.
For sure.
Only if you make it out. The thing is that only 5% of the players get that, and everybody else just gets cucked by the craziness.
Yeah. I was feeling that way towards the end of last wipe. Like the way to stay afloat is like you die 4 raids in a row, and you die 4 raids in a row because every raid is an 8-man fight. And as long as if on the 5th raid you win and you take the 8 kits out, then you can survive your next 4 raids where you're going to die. I was like feeling that loop towards the end of last wipe. It's like every raid is just everybody in the raid piles in the same location, which means you're statistically so unlikely of winning. But as long as you can clutch one up every once in a while and make it out with all that stuff, you're just breaking even all day. But
it buys your entry fee into the next 5 battle royale matches.
But that doesn't feel as good as, out of 10 raids, 7 survives and 3 deaths. But of those 7 survives, you only killed 1, maybe 2 people. You looted up and you survived. It feels better to survive, even if you're not having this crazy Thunderdome experience. But it felt the opposite. It just felt like it's always an 8-man fight. At the end of last raid. And so I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what like a solution would be.
It's complicated. The loot is definitely moving in that direction, though. Like a few wipes ago, the only way to make money was keyed rooms. You know what I mean? It was like the only. But like nowadays, like you can make so much money in the hidden stashes and random stuff. Like, you know what I mean? I found all the
assuming you survive.
Yes, assuming you survive. Yes, but like if we're just talking like I know everyone calls it dynamic loot, and they've talked about they're working towards dynamic loot. I don't care what you call it. However the loot generation is now, the loot generation and distribution versus where it was 18 months ago, now is infinitely better. Like with the addition of the Jaeger stashes and just like how much stuff you can find GPUs and computers again. I found like Bitcoins in random spots, like maps that they've, like maps like Woods. Like Woods is damn near a perfect loot map. Woods actually is the perfect map to try the Cycle Frontier thing because the spawns aren't nearly as toxic. There are no locked rooms on that map. And the
loot's so spread out.
The loot is incredible and spread out. The sunken village is so slept on. Vases, lions, cats, horses, gold chains. There's a marked circle back there. USEC stash has good stuff. Down in the thing has boss and good stuff.
There's so much loot that I guarantee doesn't get picked up.
The camp that they added by the one spawn is so good for medical stuff. Like Woods would be a perfect map to try that on. And it's big enough that like you could have that, like, you know, people are spawning in, but they're not spawning in like right on somebody else. Like current customs would be hard because it would feel like I just ran from dorms to extract. So if somebody spawns at extract, you're going to run right into them after they spawn. If they spawn at dorms, as you're leaving, they're going to shoot you in the back. Like Woods would be perfect. There's no keyed rooms and the loot is so good. So good. And that's probably a perfect map when it comes to loot distribution. Every other map seems like it's just got, it's like, well, if you want to make money, you got to go to resort. You got to go to dorms. You got to go here. Like,
yeah, I feel like my problem, like the reason why I don't have millions of rubles is because here's what happened. I end up in the situation where I kill like a duo.
yeah.
And now I'm completely full, overweight, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the raids fucking feels like it's over. And then like I hear some fighting off in the distance, or I hear Scav boss.
Yeah.
And it's like, all that's going through my head is I can exfil, and then I like have stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think like, what's the point of having like I want to play the game. I don't want to go back to my stash.
Dude, your struggle is you don't want to play the meta game. You want to play the game. Your struggle is that you want to play the game the way it's intended to be played. And that is not a hate on anybody that plays the meta game. But like, it's the same reason, like we were talking about the other day, the same reason you're frustrated at Lighthouse and I'm having fun is because I just like watched the YouTube tutorial on like peek this angle, and the rogue is stupid and he can't see you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and he can't see you, so you just shoot him every time. And you're like, I want to go in here and I want to figure out how to kill these dudes, and I want to react to my environment. And it's the same way with that. You do that a lot. When I'm lurking in your stream, you have loot and you're heavy and you'll still push a fight. And when you survive those raids, those are the best raids in the world to watch. And when you survive a raid, your chat probably blows up with like poggers, GGs, that's sick. More so than when I survive a raid, because when you survive a raid, you've by and large extracted nearly all of the value out of that raid. Not necessarily min-maxing the value of the items, the value of the engagements and the rotations, and you looted everything. But the meta is exactly the absolute femtosecond your weight goes from 39 to 40 because you have the loot. Boom, book it out of there, extract, run it back, dude. It's get in, kill someone, take their stuff, leave. Get in, kill someone, take their stuff, leave. And then when you have 250 million rubles, go in every raid with a wristy and a slick and just slay out, man, because nobody else has. That's the meta game, and I'm not judging people. I'll be the first one to tell Seal, like, dude, I got loot, let's go. But you want to play the game, not the meta game, and that cucks you so hard.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like the only reason why I want money for gear is to have those engagements.
Yes, exactly.
That's the whole. So why would I avoid an engagement just to save some money? Like all I'm gonna do is sell the stuff, and it's gonna be one more raid. But that raid, it could be a dead raid.
That's why
this raid, I know there's gunfire right there,
dude. That's why I never do. I can't do money runs. You know what I mean? Like I never go in with like like a Makarov and a class 4 armor, and I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna SJ6 and hit all the things and leave. Because as soon as I hear gunfire, I'm like, I'm playing this game for the experience of these fights. And so when I like ignore those fights to get money, it's like I'm just getting money to have those fights. So like, what if I go, I'm in doing the money run, I've got the Makarov. It's like, well, what if I go drop 2 dudes with a Makarov? That's an even better feeling. And then I die, you know what I mean? And it's I totally get it. I totally get it. A lot of people don't think that way. I'm 50-50. I really hate not having rubles, and so like when I get into a good fight, if I've got loot, I'm gonna book it out of there. But I can't really do money runs. I'm 50-50.
I did that for one raid. Logic, I got the red key card, and I had already killed one scav, and that was like, I literally ran upstairs, ran into 218. I was talking to chat. You literally see me walk by it, and I do like a double take, and I'm like, nah, I should check it. While I'm sitting there talking with chat, I check the table, and it's like, peace the fuck out, right? Like,
see you.
And then, so that being said, here I am. The one time I get one of the most valuable items in the game, and it's still sitting in my inventory, and I can't do anything with it except for use it, which is a fucking giant waste of time anyway.
Yeah. Joke.
But I can't sell it. I can put it up for more labs key cards, which I don't fucking want, or some Lighthouse keys, which I don't fucking want. Really, I want 50 million fucking rubles.
Yeah.
So then I can just go on autopilot and spend it in 3 days on some gear, but at least, I'll get through Punisher Part 6 with that 50 million rubles because at least for a day, I'll be able to just buy SVDs And then when I run out of the 5 SVDs, I can go overpay for them on the flea market, but at least I'll be able to kit them out like and play the game. You know, I want to be able to use the gear.
Yeah.
And, you know, so yeah.
100%. 100%.
I talked on that note real quick. I did talk to Nikita about that, and basically was like, dog, you need to fix your fucking flea market fees. Like, I understand how the fees are there. Like, the reason why the fees scale the way they do is for RMT. What you don't want people to be able to do is put up a splint for 50 million rubles, because then what'll happen is they'll go online on their website and they'll say, you want to buy 50 million rubles for $20 US, PayPal me the money, and then you put something up and I'll transfer the money to you that way.
100%.
That's why it's not there. But I basically told Nikita, if somebody is willing, like if the market is willing to pay a certain price for an item, the fee should not prevent that.
Yes.
If I put it up for 50 million, the fee is 33 million. I have 87 rubles to my name. Like, fuck off.
And it crosses over in really interesting spots. And they themselves poke the bear. And the example of that is the hunter matches. You remember at the beginning of the wipe, nobody could find hunter matches. And you needed 3 for a hideout upgrade, which meant there was literal 100% demand. Everyone in the game needed this thing. This isn't red key card where labs mains want it. 100% demand. They messed with the spawn rate, which I'm all for things being like dynamically rare. I think that's really cool. But when their system of, well, the flea market commission is based on therapist's value of that item,
which is based on a hard-coded in the database,
bullcrap,
hard-coded value.
It's like you missed the opportunity for the cool thing to happen, where you created the rarity and you didn't really let the market respond to that rarity in price, because like, yes, they were listed on the flea market for like 200K day one of the wipe and nobody had 200K, so they were expensive. But like, I found a pair of some of the hunter matches like on day one of the wipe, and I was going through and I was pretending to list them for different things, and it was like you got to the point where if you listed it for like 299,000 rubles, it cost 350,000 rubles to put it up, and you're like, this is kind of dumb, because like the market is demanding this item, and I found it, and I can't.
And the worst part is that you have to overprice it just to make enough money over and above the fee.
Yeah.
But you don't get that.
Exactly.
So it's like it's fucked from so many angles.
Yeah.
Because if the fee was, 5% or whatever, well then rather than list it for 150 and then pay 130 commission just so you can get 20, people would list it for 30 and they'd pay 1,000 rubles in a fee, and then so you would get 29,000 rubles, which is more than you get if you list it for 150.
Yes.
And the people don't have to pay exorbitant prices.
And so like the value should be determined by the market, by what the market's willing to pay for it, because the market is never willing to pay a lot of money for a not rare item, right? So the RMTers that are saying just put up a splint is never going to, via the market, raise its value to 2 million rubles so that you could put one up for 50 million rubles and profit if you're an RMTer. The market's only going to demand rare things. So if you're an RMTer, you can't like consistently say, oh, just put it up for a Marin key. It's like nobody has a Marin key. You know what I mean? So it would be so much better. The military tubes are the same way. I got one in a stash, and I was like, why are people listing them so high? But like, to extract the most value out of it, you have to list it for 1.1 million and pay 700. It was like 600K was the flea market commission. But if you put it up for, so I'm only making like 600K, but if I put it up for 600K, the fee was 200K. So it's like, I was going to put it up for lower and give somebody a good deal if I could get a similar value, but I can't. The market finds the meta based on what therapist's value is, and like everybody loses because I'm paying 700K for a fee to make 700K. I would gladly just list it for 700K if the fee was 10,000. You get it for cheaper, and I get the same amount of money. It's so busted. What did he say? Because it's so busted.
Well, yeah. So he basically said, I forget exactly what he said, but it was basically like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Now the big challenge that they have to avoid with this, because it's not just as easy as make it based on the market value, because then you would have RM tiers band together and make the splint worth, whatever.
I agree.
So there's some tweaking that they need to do. I mean, ultimately, I almost feel like I would be fine. I can't really theory craft live. I'll end up saying something stupid.
I get what you're saying. Though. It can't be that simple, but that was just to illustrate how busted it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they need to like take into consideration how many players like own that item. You know, like. I mean, it's hard to figure it out.
One of the variables should be how rare it is, because that helps them create more dynamic events, right? Like I said, I thought it was kind of cool that they changed the hideout things and they made some of those things rare, but it didn't feel like you accounted for that on the market side, right? Like Therapist says 100 matches are worth 73 rubles, but whatever on the back end, you have them set to like red key card level rarity. Like that doesn't add up, you know what I mean? Like anything in the game that rare is not going to be valued at two rubles, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe if I were implementing it on their end, I would probably implement some sort of like tiered system where every item falls into a bucket, and it could be like 5 tiers. Yeah. Right, so like a splint is tier fucking 1.
Yeah.
There are the things that are fucking. There's a dime a dozen. There's a billion of them. You can buy them from the traders, whatever. But all of the things that that are like tier 5. Assuming tier 5 is like rarer. Then that would affect the spawn rates of things, but it would also then maybe apply a different formula. Yeah. Maybe it's like a set fee of like 100,000 rubles no matter what, or something like that. So then I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure there's probably something they could learn from like fucking real life auction houses and a whole bunch of other shit.
Sure. And that
it needs to be fixed, and I just hate it.
And therein lies the problem of them wanting to create this really cool, really complicated economy, but then not in their current form, at least having the manpower or the desire or whatever it is to like flesh it out, because they like, like a cornerstone of the economy, like from the alpha and early beta days, was like the barter economy, right? Like they want, and every time they add new items in the game, they add new barters, and they cuck themselves so many times. And a great example of that is like for the last few wipes, a great barter was the purple, or they're gray, but it's the purple background, 1-cell military filters. You could find them all over Reserve. They'd sell them for about 50, 60K. And there was a 1-to-1 barter from Skier for a suppressed DVL, my favorite gun in the game. Hell yeah. Like, instead of that being, even in the current flea market climate last wipe, instead of me seeing that as rubles, I saw that as a DVL. I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, they arbitrarily selected that item to be a rare item this patch. You need 10 for solar, you need 5 for the air filter, and you need 2 for Bitcoin farm level 2.
Is the DVL trade still there?
Yes.
That's the most expensive DVL trade on planet Earth.
800,000 rubles on the flea market.
That's the sickest DVL you'll ever get.
So now you've completely annihilated your barter, because you were just like, you know what, that item's going to be rare and you're going to need 15 of them this wipe. So they ran up to early wipe. They ran up to 800K. They've completely leveled out at 800K. I found a few and sold them for 800K. I'm never going to do that trade again. So it's like, and they do that all the time with stuff where it's like, now the key tool barter is infinitely more expensive because you need syringes for this new craft to craft the gas analyzer. And they didn't think about that because everyone needs a gas analyzer. So now the price of syringes skyrocket, and now the key tool barter is infinitely less. It's just like,
they need to build systems
foundation of a really cool system that's fun and dynamic, but it's just a mess. Every time something becomes more valuable, something else gets ruined. It's just a mess.
They need to have some reliable algorithm on their end to determine what an average like the average value, market value of a thing is. Again, I don't know how they would do that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you gave me a couple hours off stream with a pencil and paper, I could probably come up with something pretty robust.
Yeah.
But then from there, they could do cool shit like every day refresh all the barter trades. Take something that is in the realm of 47,000 ruble average value, or in that range, and then now that's the trade for that item for the DVL. So now every day you can go look. Oh shit! Now it's matches. For 7 DVLs or whatever, right?
Dude, exactly. Or from the
so
other.
Then they don't have to do it every day and do a new thing and then change it and then fix things when they add more trades and.
Dude, or from the other end, how cool would it be if so we know that they've done all these things in pieces and fragments. Like they've sent us messages before in the game and done events where like, this type of item is really rare. You know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, so you've actually put some thought into that. It'd be really cool if like I'm thinking on the back end, this is Jesse's, vision board here. I'm thinking on the back end, if I was like in charge of the economy guy, I'd want to be able to on my screen click on an item and like the spider web, and when I click on it, it highlights a trail to every single thing that item is used for in game. So if I click that military
trades and craft,
if I click that military power filter, it would go to every single trade, every single craft, every single barter, every single quest. And then if I went, okay, I want to make this 8 times as rare, right? Like, how cool would it be if there wasn't like a message in my notification, but I went to Skier with the thing, and that barter today or for this week, because they weren't rare, he's like, I need those too, and the barter automatically updated, and it was like a DVL, a Mark 18, and 50,000 rubles.
Yeah.
And then as they scaled up or scaled down the rarity of that item again, I'm like, oh, I found one. Heck yeah. And I go back to Skier and he's just back to the DVL. And I'm like, what? And then I check the flea market and I'm like, oh, they're not as much, I guess. Because then everything can still be, you can still have value in it. It'd be cool to see like what the traders are willing to do.
Dude,
but you have to be able to know when you click on an item, you have to be able to know everything.
Dude, half the community thinks the fact that before you do anything, if you want to, like, you need to pull up the wiki and fucking, EFTmarket.biz and all kinds of other shit. They think that is a fucking feature.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Like, they love that they have to have 6 monitors and 12 tabs open to fucking scratch their balls in Tarkov.
Yeah.
If I was in charge of designing this game, I would see that as a massive missed opportunity and flaw in the design.
Yeah.
I would not try to defend it. I would feel shitty about it, and I would be self-conscious, and I would want to fix it. But unfortunately, for some reason, just like with broken scavs and just like with the shitty quests and everything, for some reason, a large swath of the community. Yeah, I get that you don't like it, but I really like it because it means that, you have to go and you have to check the wiki and you have to do it means you have to do your homework. And it's like, I can't even respond to, I don't even know how to like grok that. I just can't. Like it drives me nuts. And that's the shit that makes me even fucking grumpier when it's like, I'm salty and I'm complaining about something that's a valid complaint, and people are like, what do you mean, dude? All you need to do is click on 17 things in your stash, right click on whatever to go to figure out how much she's gonna give you for it, and then how much that this trader's gonna give you for it, and then figure out based on listing it and then subtracting the fee how much you're gonna get in the flea market, and then go on Tarkov tracker to figure out if the price is going up or down, and then also know that it's now for a trade that's connected to 19 other things. I love that. I love that. Don't you love that?
Don't you love that? Yeah.
Like, no, because I'm playing the game and trying to enjoy it and I'm streaming it. I'm not just sitting in my fucking inventory with the wiki up watching a streamer telling them how they should enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to look into it. Who knows? I've been talking to him a bunch about a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of other bugs, like trying to see if like he's still aware that the stuttery movement for 100% of the time for all. I literally wrote the message. In case you aren't aware, the stuttery movement is still 100% for all players on all maps on all servers
all the time.
And he said, yes, aware. Like, sick.
Hey, that's a step in the right direction, because last time you brought it up to him and you sent him the clip, he was like, that shouldn't be happening.
He was like, he was like, what's wrong with your router? Let me see your logs, I literally did this the other day, again, because I was getting gaslit by chat. So I'm like, okay, let me demonstrate it. Scrolled down through the Tarkov, clicked on, I was clicking I ended up clicking on actual sealable.
Really?
VOD, just because it was like, just scroll down, random streamer in my follow list. And then I clicked on a random VOD and scrolled to a random point, clicked on it. And 2 seconds in, you see the fucking people skipping across the screen. Yep. I'm like, if that's not a called shot, I don't know what is, right? Yep. Like if I can pick a random VOD from a random streamer and I literally picked another VOD, scanned to a random point in, clicked on it, waited for another moment where the teammate happened to be running on screen and it was completely scuffed.
Yep.
And still, for some reason, half the chat was like, I've never noticed that before.
Bro,
I'm like, you're not looking. You're not looking.
That's what's crazy is I remember when you first brought it up to me, I really hadn't noticed. And so now when those people, like, when people say that they don't notice, my first reaction is to be like, well, you're stupid. But it's like, man, I didn't notice either. It's so weird. But
I don't even blame you for not noticing.
But once you notice, you can't stop.
But I just can't stand the people that are like,
yeah.
No matter how much I explain it, they still deny. I watch people all the time, dude, that are smooth. It's not all the time. And I'm like, show me a VOD. Show me. If you're telling me you watch people all the time, then it should be trivial for you to pull up, literally show me 10 seconds of gameplay from any streamer anywhere in the world within the last 6 months that shows smooth movement. And I literally, there was one dude in my chat that just kept saying it. He's like, I don't know why you don't believe me. I'll believe you when you show me a video. I offered him $1,000. I would have PayPal'd him $1,000 cash. I'm like, you have a fucking half an hour. Find me a clip.
That's how confident I am. More than enough time.
I'll pay you $1,000. I'll PayPal you. Couldn't do it. So, like,
dude, 100%.
But he's aware of that. He's aware of some of the issues around. I talked to him about like the ammo limits and how annoying it was, and showed him a clip of me trying to buy the ammo when it says that there's like 800 rounds left, and you go to buy it and it says out of stock.
Sometimes it'll say like 12,000 left. You're like, sweet, I made it in time, and then you're like, what? Yep.
What else is there? Oh yeah, so originally when I asked him about it, I was like, with individual limits, I'm like, is it still necessary to keep the global limits? Like, why? Like, there's if I know I can only buy 60 rubles of AP or whatever, and then I go in 30 minutes into the trader cycle, and I can't buy it because it's sold out. It's like, why? Do you still need that? And his first response initially was a shrug emoji.
Oh my God.
I was like, well, I don't think I'm getting anywhere with this one. And then he responded again at like literally a day later and said, actually, I checked on ammo quantities and didn't find any shortage. I'm like, what do you mean by shortage?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Because, and I showed him a clip from my VOD trying to buy just a bunch of, I couldn't buy M80. It was sold out.
Yeah.
And I had I finished a quest and got 4 of the fucking, not SVD, MDR, 4 of the 308 MDRs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, sick, let me go use them. And then after one raid, I can't buy M62, can't buy M61, but I can pay 1,200 rubles a round for M80 on the flea market. It's like, guess I'm not using the guns, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, after I talked to him about that, he said he was going to look into it. He'll check. The one other thing that I did want to mention before I wanted to talk about the Lighthouse stuff, because I got some Lighthouse experiences, was there was a whole bunch of, there's some videos that were going around and a whole bunch of folks that were talking about, is 545 BS? Is it bugged? Is it bugged? Is it broken? And I tested it, and if you're at 100 meters, I only tested literally once. But at 100 meters, you shoot an unarmed person with 5.45 in the head and they don't die. It goes from 40 damage down to 34 damage. So you just have 1 HP. So it's not enough to kill with a headshot. And he said his initial thing was need the check. And then I said, yeah, so 40 damage down to 38. Or sorry, 40 damage down to 34. I said that's a 15% damage loss on 100 meters. And his initial thing was, seems okay. So I was like, I mean, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know, you know, but it's just, you know, it's one of those things that you, again, like Tarkov is this punishing thing and everybody makes fun of like the Division when it's bullet spongy. And then I have clips of me hitting, you know, Tagilla 42 times and he's just running back and forth, you know, but then when you see like a dude zigzagging and you manage to hit that one fucking shot from 150 meters and
you see the blood on the rock next to him, but they just keep running and you're like,
and then you have to ask yourself, did I miss? Is it desync? Was it ricochet? Was their helmet not rendering? You know, did I have another bullet in the, you know, whatever. There's so many things you have to ask yourself, like, why didn't it work? Now there's one more, which is the damage drop off. So I don't know. That's just one thing. One thing to check.
Yeah, I haven't really experienced too much of that. I know that people are always talking about that. Yeah, and yeah, really quick back to the ammo thing. I'm glad you're at least bringing it to his attention because it's just like it feels once again a response to the wrong thing. It's just a response to like it's a response to usage and not effectiveness, if that makes sense. It's just everybody, like, you know what I mean? Like if I could like if I, you know what I mean? If I was Pestily, I could get on, you know what I mean? I could 100% do this. He could get on and he could make a video and he'd be like, let's test something, chat. Everybody start using RRLP ammo. Just like when it buy 600,000 of it, Peacekeeper has an infinite amount. Everybody start doing that. Next week, there'd be a freaking limit on it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why
because everybody would be complaining about how it was like OP or whatever it would get to Nikita.
People, it's like, you know, when I complain about the trader limits, once again, part of it's just me venting. And immediately people are like, well, they don't want to flood the economy with good ammo. And I'm like, you're the same person 2 wipes ago that if I was running M80 and my SA58, you were like, why are you running the trash ammo? You know what I mean? Like Subsonic SX, the third best MP7 ammo, it's like not that good, right? It's like mid at best, you know, 31 pen, whatever. I don't remember what it is. It's mid. I made a video about it and a few other people made a video about it because it's negative 24 recoil. And Gigabeef, a YouTuber, did a bunch of really cool testing in the hideout. And it at least really seems that when an ammo has a negative or plus recoil, it's just a flat applied to the vertical recoil of however the gun is modded currently. And so, like, you know, an MP7 minus 24 recoil with the new recoil system, it feels like old MP7.
Yeah.
But the ammo is not good, right? It's not, we're worried about flooding the economy with subsonic SX ammo, but it's sold out in 14 seconds, every mechanic reset now. And it's like, yeah, sure, I don't want the economy flooded with M61, but M80 subsonic, this was the stuff that like people would comment in my YouTube comments like, you're supposed to be the one teaching new people and you're using that absolute garbage ammo. And now they're like, well, we can't flood the economy with it. And I'm like,
look at and now they're falling back to, well, then look at the stats. M80 is a meta top tier ammo. So, and then it's like, okay, well then why does LPS have, it's unlimited?
Yeah.
Nobody's complaining about LPS,
100%.
and yet LPS has 41 pen and 80 damage.
Yeah.
Sorry, wait. LPS, where are you? 42 pen, 81 damage. M80 has 41 pen and 80 damage. So it's like LPS is literally better than M80.
You can buy an SVD and throw some LPS in there, and it's a semi-auto monster, and nobody's talking about LPS. It's so, that's my frustration with it. It's like, get yourself centered if you're gonna come at me when I complain that I can't buy subsonic. You know what I mean? Because we can go down the road. I'm not saying we should get rid of it all. I'm not saying M61 should flow from the valley. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. And that's what all I want. I want it to make sense. I want there to be a vision and an execution on that vision that makes sense. And so it's just like, because the flip side of that is like the P90. When I did the video, those were the 2 rounds. The new 7N40 for AKs does the same thing, but you literally can't get that except for airdrops and if raiders have it. But the P90 ammo, SB193, is only a 3 pen difference from SS190, which is the best. So it's like a very close second. It's not a distant second. It's 2 USD. And when it's like, a lot of the USD isn't real. Like if you buy 100 SB193, it's $180. So it's like, really, it's 1.8. It's $1.80 a round.
It rounds it, but
and,
they don't,
and there's no limit. You could buy 600,000 of it. And it's like, once again, you're freaking worried about flooding the economy with subsonic SX, but not SB193. It's like,
be consistent. But you know what the problem is that I'm afraid of being like, hey Nikita, you know.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Because then he's gonna put the limit on LPX,
exactly.
and now I'll never be able to do any of the sniper quests. I won't be able to do Punisher Part 6. I won't,
exactly,
because the only reason why I'm able to keep, struggling through Punisher Part 6 right now after I've gone through all of my fucking SVDs and everything is because at least I can buy fucking LPS ammo, and grab a couple hundred rounds.
It's just this is when I'm doing the same thing. I'm just like molding at it because like my literal argument for why 2 or 3 wipes ago M80 was a good round when people were calling me an idiot is it's the verbatim exact argument people use on me of why it's such a good round. You know what I mean? Like back in like the SA58 meta wipe. It was like 3 wipes ago. We all remember the Juice Cannon. That was the meta gun. And every once in a while I didn't feel like buying more M61, so I throw M80 in that. And it's like people would be like, dude, that's so garbage. You're running such an expensive kit. It's such garbage ammo. And I'd be like, yeah, but it's only garbage ammo when I run into an Alton, right? Like, because at 41 pen, if I run into an Exfil or a Wendy and a face shield, I'm 1 to 2 tapping them anyway, right? And everyone's like, yeah,
but when your mag is filled with M61 and you get 1 tap without firing it, how good is your M61, bud?
Not even that. But now this wipe, people are like, M80's OP. And I'm like, I'm not really OP. And they'll be like, it's like a 1-tapper unless you run into an Alton. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like, I just can't. It's just, I know that's sometimes maybe it's different people because these people are newer to the game. It's just like,
the thing is, what you're paying is you have a big fucking expensive gun with shit recoil that's mad heavy and the ergo's terrible. So that's what you're paying.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can buy a little SMG and output a bunch of damage with, a little bit of pen and it costs half as much.
Yeah.
Or you can, spend fucking 3 times as much and get something that might 1-tap.
Yeah.
But it takes you 900 years to aim down sights and, it's mad fucking heavy and really expensive, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know.
If the ammo situation got figured out, this wipe, I love the like layout of the meta this wipe. I love it. Like
I'm still only running into class 4 pretty much.
Well, even with guns, like I'm still running into class 4, but I'm saying like this is what we've been asking for. Like this wipe, the rifles feel the worst. An AK-103, an M4, a Scar. Like unless you're willing to spend all the money to drip it out insane, they feel the worst. Like the kings right now are DMRs for 1-taps or SMGs, and I love it because by and large, of course, there's exceptions. You know what I mean? By and large, the SMGs, the top rounds of the SMGs are in the like 40s of pen, but the top rounds of the DMRs are in the 50s and 60s. So like in general, you're getting a lower recoil, high fire rate, low mag capacity gun that you can laser beam somebody down with, or on the other end, you've got the, the one tap king where you're using the great big bullet, but you need to hit your shots. And like this wipe more than ever, it's felt like the that middle ground, the rifle, the M4, that's just the best everything, the best SMG, the best DMR, the best sniper rifle, and the best rifle. It now more than ever, it feels like that is gone. But then you can't, now we're in the situation where I can't buy the best ammo for the MP7. I can't buy the second best ammo for the MP7. I can't buy the third best ammo for the MP7. And so it's like we're so close. We're so close to it actually feeling good. But because nobody can buy any of that, everyone in the whole game is running a UMP with AP or FMJ because it's the only thing you can reliably get. And so it's like we're close, man. We're so close. We just gotta walk back some of this ammo stuff and figure it out. Because
couple that with the one time you decide to buy heaven forbid you have like 2 or 3 MP7s.
Yeah,
you can only unless you want to spend 180,000 rubles on magazines.
Yeah,
because you can buy like 6 or whatever, but then after that they're 40,000 rubles per magazine. Not to mention the fact that like a backpack is 34,000 rubles.
Yep.
It's like now everything everything is quantities of 30,000 rubles. It's like the backpack. You want to buy a Salua, it's 20,000. You want to buy the stem, it's 20,000. You want to buy
Yep.
I feel like it's like fucking inflation madness, and if
it is, bro.
Which is worse for me because again, I don't play to maximize my money.
Yeah.
So I always have enough money to go in and to get geared up, but it just takes me 20 minutes because I have to sell like 3 fucking hoses and like 2 fucking med whatevers and like so.
Yeah, we were talking about how back in the day the Gen 4 was the meta armor. There was no limit on how many you could buy per trader reset, and they were 120,000 rubles. And it's like, I'm not saying they should still be that way, because obviously when we introduce the flea market and all these other items and the hideout, like you can make money. So I get it. But I was just saying, it's just funny how far we've come from like, you could put on a meta kit, for like 400,000 rubles. And now, you know what I mean? Your helmet, you know what I mean? It's like 250,000 rubles. You want to exfil with the chops and the face shield? That's like 190,000 rubles for the helmet.
Dude,
you know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Perfect segue to my fucking Lighthouse raid last night. So after I did a few Lighthouse raids, one of the later ones was the one raid I went in with is it the G28?
Yeah, the new.
I found under the fucking giving tree just a full kitted G28 with the scope and everything. It was, now it took me 25 minutes to go through and buy and like pilfer 12 rounds from this magazine and 8 rounds from this magazine because I couldn't buy M80.
Yep.
But I finally scrounged together a kit where I had a sick fucking helmet. I had the Gen 4 assault. Was like a new Gen 4 assault that I had. I'm like, I'm going to use that, and I think I killed a couple of raiders, and then it was like the weight alone. I couldn't.
With the G28 and a Gen 4, you're already like 40 kilos.
I'm overweight and I'm losing all my energy. So I spent the entire raid just cheesing raiders and dying of energy loss until I got out with an empty bag. And it was like, well, that was fucking fun, right? So, but then the alternative is fill my backpack full of lunch boxes and mule stems, which cost 100,000 rubles each. So it's like now I don't even fucking want to use gear because I'll still get one tapped with the shit, and it's not even fun to play anymore because it's so heavy and cumbersome. Yeah. The only time it'll ever be worth it is if I run into a Timmy with a Makarov. It basically means that unless he gets super lucky, I'm invincible. Yep. Unless he takes the time to aim at my head, which he should do, but instead he just panics, I'm invincible, right? But if there was a skilled person with the Makarov, I could still fucking die. Yeah. But yeah, so Lighthouse. I was literally like, for the first time ever, I would turn a corner and say, where do I go? Chat. And I would read chat. And there was like 1 or 2 people in chat that were like, okay, you're going to want to lean, peek through this crack and shoot the guy on the gun. And it's like, pop, okay. And then they're like, okay, now run to the tent in front of you. And I run to the tent in front of me. And it was like, okay, now lean to the left through this little crack and shoot the other guy on this thing. And I killed him. And they're like, okay, great. Now you're free to run to the building and then go loot it. And because there's nobody in there.
Yep.
And as soon as I get there, I hear voices like, there he is, and a scav over there. I'm like, oh shit. And they're like, no, he's up on the roof. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Like, they just walked me through the most fucking boring raid of my life where I did nothing but the same like 5 things that involved just a simple lean and zoom in with my 6X and go tap on the head. And I was doing the kill raiders task. And it was just like, this is fucking terrible. like now I now understand what Jesse means, where he's like, these are the rules you have to follow.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, I just succeeded and did the, like the thing I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
And it reminded me of speed running, where you do the same thing 300 times in a row because the NPC is going to turn left, so then you do that, and it's like,
yeah. And instead of combating that by turning up, I know it's not this simple, but instead of combating that by turning up their intelligence, they just turn up their difficulty and accuracy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like they moved. So like I've been loving Lighthouse and I've been following the meta, right? Like I know, which ones you got to kill, when you're clear, when you're not clear. There's a group of 3 that spawn by the helicopter, like in the center, like between all the buildings, like way out there in the center. They moved their spawn so that they're not as spammable from like super far away. And those guys are cheating. Like they're God mode. Like, I don't know if you're still sending clips to Nikita, but like I have 2 clips on my stream where the clip ended with me going, I need to send this to Veritas. And then I clip it because like, I'm zoomed in. I'm looking, literally every part of me is behind cover, and there's like a crane, and I'm looking through between the bars of the crane at 150 meters away. And it's like my reticle, like I'm scanning, I'm slow peeking. I see ahead, and it's just a 90-degree turn, 855 on a red dot scar, dead. And I'm like, what? Going back to like, what was I supposed to do there? You know what I mean? And that's when you get into these weird arguments where it's like half of chat are like, the rogues are easy, because half of the time they are. They're not easy, they're stupid. So if you hold these angles, you can win 100% of the time. If you hold any other angle, they're not easy. They're literally impossible. Like I was playing with One Peg, and I watched this clip back like 8 times. I was like, there's nothing I could do. And especially if you start running into stuff where it's like, where the hell is their damage drop off? Because I'm looking at this dude from 100 meters away, and I'll shoot him in the face and he won't die because he's got additional HP in his head. He's got 70. I've got, 35, and I've got damage drop off and he doesn't. So it's like this, it's one of many of these weird community, like the community's so weirdly split on it's like the rogues are either really hard or really easy. And it's because they're both. They're really stupid and really hard. So
yeah, if they never look at you for whatever reason, either because you're standing in this area or you're standing or whatever, they're billboards.
They're target practice in the hideout. It's not moving.
It's a joke. I literally at no point did anybody I ever killed. They were all looking like completely perpendicular. They're just looking off in the distance, probably shooting, looking locked onto. They were locked onto some poor hatchling on interchange.
Yeah,
they're locked on. They're locked onto
100%.
Timmy across the fucking planet. And I could walk out there and spam voice comms and shoot past their heads, and they just won't fucking react at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Speaking of One Peg, someone at one point I spawned and I was like went up to this big rocky area because everybody was like, oh, it's really cool that you can like snipe down from the rocks onto the scavs.
Yeah.
And there's someone who's like, this is One Peg's spot. And I'm like, okay. So, and I have the fucking 12X or whatever on the G28. And I'm like, I go prone and I crawl a little bit, and it's like, okay. And I before I had the chance to fucking get the scope halfway up, instant death from 350 meters away. And it was like, oh.
Yep.
But I'm sure if I was like 20 feet away on this part of the rocks, I could have just farmed them, right? Like, what's this? Send this to Veritas. Oh, is this you, Jesse?
Yeah, dude, this is one. Okay, this clip I didn't die, but look at how quickly he reacted. You see the laser on my face. You see the red. I'm in an alternate dimension for a second because his laser goes right onto my eyeball. I didn't die. He shot me and I ran away. That's a different clip. I did die many of the other clips.
I mean, I just finished writing 3 pages about reaction time and how it's so badly missing.
So it's like it's just this weird thing where like people don't people often aren't talking about that discrepancy of like they're not easy. Like Tarkov AI is like the hardest AI in the world. They just happen to also be the stupidest AI in the world. And that creates 2 very different experiences, and it makes it weird and it makes it frustrating for the community. You know, you send out a tweet and with that clip and you're like, dude, the rogues, like I've only played 12 hours of Tarkov. The rogues are too hard. And then you get, no, they're actually really easy. All you have to do is this. And it's like, what you're outlining isn't easy. It's stupid. You know what I mean?
It's easy to beat the shit out of a fucking 7-year-old kid. Okay. Yeah. But if you're sitting there watching Nickelodeon or whatever, and your 7-year-old brother walks up to you and stabs you in the neck with a knife,
dude,
I'm sorry, you lost that fight, and it's just because they did some crazy shit that you'd never expect.
Exactly.
Not because, right? Like
exactly, dude.
And that's Veritas's metaphor of the day.
Bro, that's so great. Oh, that's so great. But like, exactly. So it's just super weird, and not nobody, because obviously I don't reach out to the entire community, but outside of our podcast and the people that cross in our circles, I don't see a lot of people talking about that. It's so binary. They're either easy or they're, hard. And we have to go into why half of the community, like we have to find the nuance there. Why do half of the community think they're easy and half of them think they're hard? It's like, well, the half that think they're easy are the veterans that are used to like abusing really weird mechanics to get around really poor design. And so they think it's easy, and it's not. It's dumb. And so like, dude, I could send you clips to send to Nikita. I'm sure you've already sent enough, so I'm not saying. But it's like I want him to realize that. And once again, my solution, it's not easy. Like I said, there isn't an intelligence slider that they can just turn up and make them infinitely more reactionary and this and that and the other. But we've said it many times, and I'll say it again. It just, in this middle point, the game would be so much more fun if they weren't so accurate. Yes, it would make the game easier. The economy, like,
I'd be fine if the economy was flooded with their fucking gear.
That's what I'm saying.
It's better than hating the fucking game or cheesing them entirely.
That's what I'm saying. Is that like it's almost like, and I'm very guilty of this, but it's almost like a moot point to talk about the economy. Like, and dude, when the Bitcoin was crazy, I was doing it. I made a whole thesis, video on why I thought the civilian Flea would help the economy. So I'm guilty of it, but to a degree, when there's so many like such placeholder mechanics in the game, it's almost like a moot point. Like, if you're new to the game, I want you to have fun playing this game. And if the game is set up in a way so that you can have fun, but that means I have 600 million rubles, maybe that's how it should be. I don't know, because it's like, if you've only been playing for 12 hours, you're never going to Lighthouse. You're never going to check out those freaking rogues. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
if you do, you're just gonna click Lighthouse because it's another map. You don't realize that it's any different. You're gonna walk north, and then at some point you're not gonna be walking north anymore.
Yeah.
You're gonna be back in your stash, and you're gonna go, huh? And then the name is gonna be some guy like Acetaminophen or whatever, and you're just gonna assume it was a cheater.
Yeah.
And assume it's a bug that you can't report his name.
And so it's. So yeah, it's like I understand. I want to get to the root issue, but I understand it's not as easy as just like turning up intelligence. I just think like, now what's weird is I actually put this in the thing, is that like I actually had a few encounters the other day that felt really, really cool because I had rogues and I had different instances where scavs were shooting at me and they were missing every single shot. And for a brief second, I almost DM'd you. I almost DM'd you and said, what did you get him to do to the scavs?
Was that like 3 or 4 days ago?
Yes.
I DM'd Nikita and I said, did you alter the normal scav accuracy at all? And he said, no. Because for 2 days,
dude, yeah,
I didn't get hit by a single scav bullet.
Dude, I had clips. I had these awesome clips of me like getting shot at, and I was full running, and I was seeing tracers just goong, 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 just barely miss me every time, and I'd get around cover with no stamina left, and I was like, chat, did they do something to the scavs? Because that was
felt
sick.
You're like outrunning the bullets. You're like, oh,
dude, yeah, and it's like boom, you get hit in the arm, but you can still run, and I was like, bro, this is sick. That's so funny. It was literally like 3 or 4 days ago. But then yesterday when I was playing with one peg, I had like 4 of those clips and I was like, nope, they did not fix it. But for like a brief second, it felt so good.
For me, it was literally 2 days straight. And it was also, I was playing in the morning. So the PMC encounters were better. And then the normal scavs, the scav boss was still scuffed.
Yeah.
Scav boss and raiders and whatever. But the normal scavs, they didn't hit anything.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank God. It just made it, again, it makes them look stupid.
Yeah.
But again, I'd rather have that than, the alternative. But the fact that he said no, it worries me because it's almost like not gaslighting, but it's kind of like, how is it that I can go for so long with one experience and then like that, all of a sudden, it's like the fact that even you mentioned it, the clear, like, I know what scavs are like, and I could tell after 2 engagements, something was different.
Yep.
And then for the rest of the 2 days, I would just be standing there while the scavs are missing me like it was the fucking good old days. And I'm like, maybe he did something. So the fact that he didn't makes me wonder, like, did I just have like a 6-month run of bad luck, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
If you assume it's a coin flip, did I lose 6 months worth of coin flips? And then all of a sudden now this is like the luck smoothing itself out? Or is it something that they don't understand or know about? Or is someone else tweaking the knobs and Nikita doesn't know about it?
That's what I was wondering.
Which is even worse. Or maybe... and maybe I don't want to say like he's lying, but
no,
I don't know. I don't know.
It felt that way for a few days, but the past 2 days haven't felt that way. It felt like it went back. So, but it was like, if nothing else, it was validation, because not only I wasn't just thinking like, aha, I was right. I was actually thinking like, that was a really cool encounter.
This is fun.
Like, that was a really cool encounter. Now I have at least a vague idea of where they are. I'm going to reposition or run away or do whatever. And it was just like that feeling of like, oh, I normally die there. Like, this is cool. Like, what's on the other side of those decisions of like, hey, there was a scav I didn't know about.
You see an enemy and you get to run to cover and you made it there. Unbelievable decision and making. And normally I get to decide to die. In this case, when I ran, I didn't instantly die, and
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that I didn't know if they had changed it, and it feels like they hadn't.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like over Lighthouse because again, like it's cool. There's a lot of loot everywhere, but I just don't want to walk around and loot all the chalets and stuff. Right now, I just don't feel like it. I wanted to go to, learn how to play against the raiders or the rogues, and I learned, and now I'm even more sad. So I don't know. I guess we'll wait. But on the bright side, I can always go and do a scav run with my -11 karma, and don't get to do scav runs. First of all, one thing I noticed today when I logged on. Because I after my first raid, I fucking insta died, and I'm like, maybe I'll just do like a scav run to cool off, and it had like an hour and 45 minute cooldown. does the cooldown start when you start the game?
If there's any sort of update done to the game,
Oh,
when you
that
launch it,
explains
it starts the cooldown.
Okay, that explains. I was gonna say like,
Yeah, and so if you have negative karma, you're cucked every time they do an update because you launch the game.
2 hours.
Yeah, and it's 2 hours. Yep.
2 fucking hour cooldown. But then again, like even if there wasn't a cooldown, let's say I wait 2 hours and I go in there, I spawn in, and I'm instantly getting shot at by scavs. So how do you? I just don't realize how. What do you?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, does Nikita want the solution to be wipe your account, reset your account, or does he want it to be, well, I guess you're not
You just
doing
can't scav
scav runs
anymore.
You can't. I mean, you're not given the. It's not like I'm given the choice to be. I can be nice to player scavs, but I'm still just getting attacked by AI scavs, which then confuses the player scavs and just leads to fucking chaos.
Oh, so, that's so true.
I don't even like literally they're getting shot at, or there's just nothing I can do. And of course everybody's like, well, that's what you get for killing Santa. What do you fucking expect? And it's like, okay, well, what do I expect when I start the game up? Don't read Twitter.
Yep.
And then as a PMC, I kill, and I'm a solo PMC. So for 5 years, I've learned that as a solo PMC, kill on sight. Well, now you should have had trigger discipline, because I should know that if I see a scav with a fucking red backpack, that it's going to completely ruin 40% of the game for me,
Yep.
So, so someone had an idea, and I was going to look it up, and now I forget exactly what the details are. And let's see if I can just sort of like word salad between now and then before I can figure out what the thing is. I'm not going to be able to do it in time. I forget what the guy's name is.
Was it like a video you saw?
No, it was somebody in chat. It was one of the rare times where somebody in chat spamming paragraphs, and I'm like, not interested. And then I read one of the messages, and I'm like, yo, that's really good idea.
Really?
Like, it was something I hadn't thought of, and maybe I'll dig it up and maybe we can come back to it.
Yeah.
Because I got to go back in my VOD, find his name, go through his chat logs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, with the scav karma, yeah, it's rough. While you're looking up that, did you notice that there was an update the other day or yesterday or?
Oh, like modernize the servers.
Yeah, it was like
whatever.
server modernization.
Whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, of course
they updated. They're on Windows 98 now.
Yeah, they didn't really explain what it was. However, I didn't realize I didn't expect it to be like, fixing AI or anything, but people are saying that a lot less of the queues are essentially gone. Like when I open my game, you know what I mean? It's like it's gone from peak hours 40,000 to like peak hours there's like 200 people in the queue.
Yep.
And then additionally, people are saying that there's not, at least once again, I haven't played since the thing because it was like yesterday, but there's a lot less like the back end errors, move errors, a lot of the stuff that even if you got into the game, it was like plaguing you on your stash. I haven't played since, but hopefully it's addressing, whatever they've been struggling with. Of course, there's going to be a dip in the player base after the drops event and stuff like that, but obviously something else was broken, and so hopefully.
Yeah, I didn't have any of like the just flashing, waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I think it was most of that kind of stuff, the out of raid stuff, because I mean, I had like 6 different instances of just dog shit desync, so it's not like anything is. Wasn't the net code.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was.
Yeah,
the net code.
Okay, I think I found the guy's messages. And of course I spoke too soon because now I need. Okay, so what he said was, and again, I when I read this, I at first was like, oh god, here we go, and then I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, fuck, I think it kind of makes sense. So what he said was. And let grok this for a bit. Just think about it.
Okay.
There should be no positive karma. There shouldn't be anything that you can do that adds karma. And I'm like, how the fuck does that work then? And what he said was, and let me read through it, and maybe it'll make sense. But he said it should never go up based on your actions. There should only be negative karma that resets naturally over time. The more shitty scav things you do, the longer it takes to naturally come up. The reason why negative things that affect you are so dramatic is because you can change it by doing positive scav things. Like, that's the only reason why they have to make the negative stuff so dramatic, is because there's so many things you could do to just offset it.
Yeah.
So they have to make the punishment really bad. But he says if there's no positive actions you can take, then the negatives don't have to be so dramatic. Then there should just be a timer added to all the negatives that resets over time, as long as you don't do more negative things. And then I wasn't reading any of it, and then I'm like, I don't really get what the fuck you're saying, dude.
Yeah.
He said the fact that there's two avenues, positive and negative, is the problem. And then let me see. It says positive karma completely ruins how the whole thing works. If you can fix, quote unquote, your mistakes by doing in-game actions, then by nature they have to make the negative effects extreme to offset the work you can do to fix it. So he said, add time to the scav timer, make fence more expensive, have AI scavs do increasingly shittier things to you based on negative karma.
Yeah.
But there's a timer that goes down that alleviates those negatives over time. You don't control this timer. You can only add to it by doing more negative shit. And he had to repeat himself like 15 times because I kept being like, dude, your idea is fucking stupid. I don't understand it. He thinks scavs would work together more because things would get worse for you the crappier you are as a scav, but the only way to make it better is don't do shitty things. Let me see. So if you make a mistake, like I did, the negative would just be 2 to 3 minutes added to my scav timer. Maybe scavs would point and babble at you in raid, like taking away your ability to be sneaky. You know, they wouldn't just like shoot at you. He said, I always thought it was unfair. If you make a mistake as a scav, they treat you as if you did it on purpose, and it just makes me want to not engage in any interaction as a scav. So it just made a lot of sense to me because think of all the flaws with the design too, around like if someone shoots at you, you have to defend yourself, but then like you get punished. It makes more sense now, like if the punishment is not a huge deal and if it was kind of a one-off. Then if it's not something that you're systematically regularly doing.
I mean, it's a complex system and there's a lot to like think through, but helicopter view like that, I can't say that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Because it's exactly what we were talking about last week. The Santa thing was an extreme example, but there's too many ways to accidentally mess up, right? There's too many ways, like you're in a fight with you're in a fight with a PMC and you actually kill a raider or a boss guard with a nade or something like that. Your karma
or
tanks.
One buckshot round hits another in the ankle because he's standing between you. There's a PMC between you and him or something.
Exactly. And then with the whole baiting shots thing, like somebody shoots at you, they miss, you shoot back out of freaking habit, you kill them, you lose karma. There's so many ways to get it down accidentally that. Dude, I don't know. I mean, it definitely makes that easier and still not spammable, because if you're really like a garbage person, you're just going to get yours down to the same spot where you can't scav for like an hour and a half, you know what I mean? And if every time you do it, you keep doing it, but at least you can let it reset for you. In a situation like yours where there is no resetting it. Like you have to.
I could do 1,100 scav runs.
Survive 1,100 scav runs where you're tagged and cursed, and every single thing in the raid is against you.
Yeah,
you have to survive that experience 1,100 times, as opposed to, you didn't realize killing Santa was bad, and so for the next like week you just don't scav run as often because it's like rough, and then it resets back to normal. The only thing would then what would be the because I like the positives of. I like Fence having 2.0, like the second trader thing. I like the fact that like really, really good scavs can get like bosses to follow them and stuff like that. I like that kind of stuff, and it's hard without that. We talked about like quests, like maybe there's like, I see that waffle fry. Is that Chick-fil-A?
My wife brought me Chick-fil-A like 3 hours ago, and I got so triggered at Tarkov I forgot, and it's cold, but here we are.
Maybe that stuff is gained through like quests, as opposed to like scav quests as opposed to the karma. But there's definitely something to that.
I mean, yeah, and maybe a lot of those things are, you get them based on like, longevity of not having been negative or something, right? Like they're kind of a bonus on top. So that like I don't know, man. It's complicated, but I thought there was something there though. Just the idea that they have to make the negatives so drastic because there's, because you can go and take the car extract and offset, basically like a killing spree.
Yeah.
The thing is that like, if you kill one scav per raid and then kill one PMC per raid, you're still a shitty scav.
Yeah.
But, it may or may not like offset. I don't know. It seems like there's something interesting around that's worth exploring.
Yeah.
That I wanted to mention. So
I completely agree. Especially since like the worst case scenario scav is just a scav, the scavs that we had for 4 years, right? Like
which now I have no choice but to be.
Yeah. And
the game turned me into I've never killed a player scav and I've never killed an AI scav as the scav, and yet I am public enemy number 1.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's like this isn't like an ammo economy issue where it's like, well, if we do the other thing, it's going to fill the economy with this. It's like the status quo of Tarkov for 4 years was like, as a scav, kill literally everything on site, including other player scavs, AI scavs, boss scavs, PMCs. It was just like literally everything kill on site. And so it's like, if there are changes made to the game that make, that benefit 58% of the player base, the ones that aren't, the more casual players, the ones that don't play, 12 hours a day, this player base, might mess up on a scav run. They killed Santa, they did this, and they don't have the time to earn their rep back. It benefits them to do it this way. And 3% of the player base might resort to just being more terrible scavs as a result. It's like those more terrible scavs don't spawn in with RPGs. It still just ends up being the same thing, which is just like a scav that's bad. You know what I mean? So it's not the end of the world. So I agree.
Maybe if they just made it so that they don't aggro you. Scavs don't aggro you.
Yeah.
So at least like spawn me in with a Makarov and 1 bullet.
Yeah.
It's fine, as I can scavenge.
Yeah.
As long as I don't take 2 steps and I'm getting shot at by
that's
the bot,
true.
right? So maybe that's just like the solution, because then at least, that's one solution. I still think that there's like something they should do about the Santa debacle.
100%.
Because that was kind of a one-off thing.
Sure.
I don't think that they necessarily need to like change the whole scav karma system.
No.
And maybe that's like, maybe I'm trying to fix a system based off a one-off, and maybe that's probably not what we need to do.
Yeah.
But I think that we could get a good ways towards fixing the problem, right? If you want to like rehabilitate, then let me fucking rehabilitate, right? But if every criminal was, you go to jail, and then when you get out of jail, the cops beat the shit out of you every day they see you, well, then you're probably going to assault a cop and end up back in jail, right? So
100%. Yeah.
I think I would actually scav again, even if my cooldown was 20 minutes, which, every now and then it sucks, but again, I don't really scav that often, so it's not that big a deal. But yeah, I'll have to talk to Nikita about that. I can't think of any reason why. Even maybe if the scav bosses insta-aggroed me, that's fine, because at least like it's not every map, everywhere all the time. I would just know as a player scav, maybe I just need to stay away from gas station on customs, right? I would feel like that's fair.
100%. There's also like, I feel like people are gonna hate me for saying this, but there's also like an element to it of like in the same way that going back to like the worst case scenario isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Going back to the fact like the worst case scenario is still a player scav spawning in with really terrible gear shooting at you. It kind of, there's a part of me, people are going to freaking freak out. There's a part of me that's like, let some people be evil. Like, it's the same we've talked about with VoIP. Like, VoIP doesn't exist solely to help people with quests.
Yeah.
Right? Like, some of the best content in other VoIPs, it's like, it's there to betray or to meme on people or to do stuff. And it's like, VoIP...
Tarkov's a mean world, man.
What VoIP provides is the ability to choose how I want an interaction to go down. It doesn't oblige me to be nice. Yep. Similarly, it's like, what if you want to be the dick scav, the scum of the earth? It's like the game basically says you can't do that. You can't play that way. Scav,
if you want to play that way, we're going to make it impossible for you to play.
Scav karma exists solely to be a positive influence on the world. And if you're a negative enough influence on the world, you're going to get to a point where you can only scav once every 2 hours and you can't survive and you can't recover it. And so it's just like, well, then now you just can't play scavs. And so I know people are going to be like, wait, because it was the same thing with VoIP. It's like, you know, VoIP came out and then anytime anyone died when somebody was like being weird in VoIP, they were like, oh, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but it's like, remember the past 3 years when we played Tarkov and everybody was kill on sight? Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
you shouldn't be able to say, hey, I'm friendly, and then have that be an instant pass to survive.
Exactly.
Sometimes I want to say, nah, fuck you. I'm doing a quest.
Exactly.
You know, or whatever.
Exactly. You know. So in the same way that, like, whether you get rid of the positive karma or not, I agree that, like, removing the insta aggro actually really goes a long way, because then if you want to be the bad scav, you're going to deal with not being able to scav as often, but you can still go around and, like, meme on people and kill more scavs and maybe, like, try to kill the scav boss for his loot or whatever. But you can exist. You can exist in the world. And right now you just can't.
Yeah, and again, maybe we're thinking too much about this and this is like a Santa thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Because, like, how many... Do you know what the penalty is for killing a fellow scav as a player scav? Do you know what it is?
0.1. I think it's 10 raids worth of survives to kill a player scav.
Okay, so... I mean, yeah, I would have had to have killed 110 scavs. I mean, like... So maybe, you know... Maybe that is... like, worth fucking you over for, right? Like, not fucking you over, but, like... Spawn you without a gun, or spawn you with the worst kit possible, or whatever, right? Like, but yeah, this is like a situation where, yeah, I just feel like the crime doesn't fit.
Yeah,
the punishment doesn't fit the crime, so to speak. Where I never betrayed a scav, never killed a single scav. It just, this whole fucking Santa thing made it so now the game is busted.
I definitely do agree that I have been looking at it through the lens of the Santa thing. Even though I never killed Santa, it's just, I know so many people, they got accidentally cucked. You're so right. As a
I played for 2 days before I knew that you got penalized as a PMC. And I don't read the stats at the end because I've been trained for 3 years. The stats don't mean shit.
And even since Scav Karma has been in the game, there has been nothing you could do as a PMC to lower it. You know what I mean? So, like, there's just so many people talk about that. So yeah, maybe there's some small changes that need to be made to the system, and then the larger changes are don't let me lose karma as a PMC. Don't let me lose Scav Karma as a PMC.
I think there. And back to what you were saying, like, how many games are there that have, like, a karma system, right, where you can go evil or good, right? Like, you know, you can play, like, Skyrim and become, like, a vampire, and, you know, like, it's not like a lost condition when you get vampirism. Like, you could role play as a fucking vampire, and you gotta go out at night. You'll pay the price of you go out during the day, your fucking skin melts off, and, you know, whatever, and then you have to feed every now and then. But, like, I feel like it's such a the negative side of karma was completely ignored or, like, not even thought about. It's just a missed opportunity. And I think that there's some richness there, even if it's negative on the negative side, right? Like, but the easy situation is, you know, the easy solution is, oh, just make everything shoot at you instantly.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of, we want to make scavs harder, so quadruple their HP.
Yes.
It's a fucking brain dead solution. It's not a clever design thing, right? Like maybe they make it so that there's some other benefits you get to being a bad scav.
Yeah,
that maybe outweigh.
I was just thinking through that in my head. Because literally every other game with that like deep evil and deep good, like every other game, at some point when you get low enough rep, when you get evil enough, quests unlock. Always, right? It's like, ooh, like, you know what I mean? So I was just thinking
fucking
that
Dark Brotherhood.
Yeah,
phones you
dude.
up.
I was just thinking that. I was like, man, what could be the either quest line from Fence when he's just like, I see you're out there cleaning up the trash, you know what I mean? Or some benefit that's still brutal. Like you still have to wade through a bunch of negatives to even enjoy that benefit. Oh my God, the cultists hit you up. Yo, that would be crazy.
You spawn in with like a shit gun, but you get a cultist knife every
poisonous
time.
knife, bro. Oh my God, that'd be insane. And it's
we don't want to. Again, like it's hard to say. Like we don't want to necessarily. I know everybody will jump to, oh, but you're just going to be rewarding the behavior that we don't want.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if we don't want it, what's the point of a fucking video game that gives you options?
Exactly.
Like, if you don't want me to do it, then prevent me from doing it in the mechanics of the game. Make it so that you don't do damage.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's better than providing this pseudo option. You know what I mean? Do you want number one or number two? Number one, I'll give you $1 million. Number two, I'm going to slap you in the face. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not an option. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what the game is. It's a pretend option. Where if you choose the negative side, you're going to get to a place where you just can't play anymore. And if you accidentally go negative, well, then it's really brutal to bring it back. And it's like, what if there was some sort of benefit? You know what I mean? Like,
because here's the thing. What they've done with scavs and the design of the game is they've basically, when you play as a scav, historically speaking, every single person was dangling a carrot. Okay? And when you grab the carrot, it made someone else mad, and it got to the point where the developers were like, we don't want you to take the carrots. So rather than like do something about the dangling carrots everywhere, like you're making it so that I can easily, without risk, steal some shit and get out. They don't address that aspect of it. They just basically are like, well, if you don't do the bad thing, we'll give you half of a carrot. It's like, well, I can I can take the carrot.
Yeah.
Or I can not do the bad thing and you're going to give me half a carrot.
Yes.
And that's why, you know, a couple weeks into with Scav Karma, nobody cares about Scav Karma anymore. Because once you have like 2 or 3 Scav Karma, that gives you free reign to kill 30 Scavs. Dude. It's going to be worth it to kill one of 30 of them is going to have a Labs key card. So it's worth it
100%.
to just teeter on the edge of positive, but barely positive. So it's a fucking flawed system.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly like you're saying. Like being in positive karma doesn't mean you're a good scav. It means you're managing karma well. And if you're somebody that kills people for sport sometimes, but not always, you're not a good scav. But the game acknowledges you as a good scav. Bro, Slush said something, and I went down this rabbit hole in my head. What if it got to a point at a negative karma where the cultists hit you up, right? And by accepting that quest with the cultists or whatever, you now start, like we said, you now start seeing some sort of benefits. And those benefits obviously can't be too overpowered. You can't spawn with, SVDs with SNB like the cultists have. But what if you start spawning with a little bit of better weapons again? But by accepting that quest, you're now an instant kill. Player scavs can kill you without being aggroed by you and gain karma from it. And you have some sort of like visual distinction. Like,
there needs to be an identifier.
And going back to what you said earlier, something recognizable in the game that doesn't require a wiki, right? What if it was you had the cultist jacket but scav pants? It's instantly recognizable. It would align with the lore of the people, and it's
unless you put on like armor over it. I want like glowing red eyes. Like make it so it's really unambiguous.
Okay, but yes, sure. But like, wouldn't that be sick? So now you've crossed over into a beneficial state of having such negative karma, but now I don't have to wait for you to shoot me. If I see you running and I'm a scav, bro, I'm gonna take you out instantly. I'm gonna get that cooler stuff, and it's good for me.
Because now I basically have to walk around and not shoot anything unless I see a PMC, which half the raids when I scav, half the time I wander around and don't find a PMC.
Yeah.
I always happen to get in when there's 8 minutes left. I'm not the one that gets in when there's 49 minutes left in the 50-minute raid somehow.
That would be so sick, because not only does it give the player an actual choice, but it even then creates like ripple effects of new gameplay, where as a scav you're not just looking for PMCs, you're also looking for these guys, and that visual indicator is an indicator of a decision to be a bad scav, right? That there's a decision. If you made a mistake and got a little negative, you wouldn't have that cultist jacket on. But this is an indicator. I have decided I want this better scav gear. I want to be terrible, and no matter what I say on VoIP, I'm probably gonna kill you because I got this jacket for a reason. You know what I mean? So it's like, that would be so sick.
Dude, I have to like get meta here and point out how this is. You and I are not professional game designers. And yet, in 10 minutes of shooting the shit, we've come up with just an infinitely better, implementation. And this is what fucking frustrates me and makes me so depressed so often. In that there's so many aspects of this game. The animations are unbelievable, the gun knowledge, the detail, and it's crazy. But again, it's being created by people who, I don't want to say like don't have any respect for game design.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that, but I often feel like people just think if you make games, you're a game designer. And that's the difference between a fucking architect and a dude who what are the fucking people that just like hammer nails and just like a labor,
like a contractor?
It's not the word I'm looking for, but sure. Like the difference between an architect, not versus an engineer. I don't know. There's a difference between someone who can go and like design something, maybe a carpenter. Yeah. I don't want to get bogged down with that.
I get what you're trying to say, though. That there's a difference between the knowledge and ability to code a game and the ability.
Yeah, and so what you have is a bunch of people who, Nikita has a vision, and you have a bunch of developers that are trying to build it, but nobody in the chain is a game designer. And when you have a game designer, that's someone who can take and figure out like. They can take vision, and they can turn that into, these are requirements, these are the systems, here's how it's gonna. I mean, just watch like any game developer talk.
Yeah.
There's one I'm gonna do in my video where it's like, it's modeling perception and awareness in AI in Splinter Cell Blacklist, and you just see that guy talk about like, here are all the different mechanics around AI, and here are the reasons why we care, and it's because of these principles, and you want to be able to have things be predictable so that players can learn. At no point does anybody at BSG, even Nikita, ever said the idea of like, we want to like reinforce player behavior by doing this or this, or like, it's none of that. It's just, it's so. Oh God, I don't know how to explain it. Like,
I know what you mean, though.
It's just disappointing. Like,
how
all it takes is a few people shooting the shit, talking about things to come up with infinitely better ideas and designs and ways of improving the game. And there's no way that they can do this at Battlestate. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that they do this. Like, I guarantee they're like, okay, Scav Karma, we want to make it bad. Okay, so then here, how can we punish? Okay, we do this. Okay, great. We want it. It's never like, why? It's never, what's the goal?
Yeah.
It's never, what are the challenges?
Dude, I mean,
here?
100%. I mean, it's like, it's kind of basic like business practices, right? Like there's visionary, and then there's like the ability to understand the end user's entire interaction with the product, and I think like I know nothing about how Battlesnake works or who's employed there or whatever, but like I'd love for Nikita to have that number 2, right? Like that really versed in like how the game like plays and how, you know, how it pans out, what the user experience ultimately is, because it does seem like that we've got really amazing vision from Nikita, and then a lot of like 7% implementations of that vision, and it just like teases the player. We were talking earlier about like the barter economy, and like by and large the barters are just not worth it ever, right? Like just like 30 Bitcoin for a weapons case, you know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Like never. But that's a really cool idea, you know what I mean, in this post-apocalyptic world, to have like a really strong barter economy. And there's a lot of that stuff. The Scav Karma, it's this. And so, yeah, exactly. I want there to be that guy that's like infinitely, acutely aware of the current player experience and how it functions. And then his job isn't to like create vision, but like, how do we execute on this vision in a way that creates this feeling you want, Nikita, but actually creates that feeling for the player? Because, somebody said it earlier, and it's kind of like what we're talking about. Somebody was like, well, that's because these ideas we're talking about were made by players and not devs. And that's just like not always the case, right? Like a lot of the things we criticize about the game were ideas from players, right? Like, you know what I mean? A lot of the things we criticize about the game, like the ammo limits, that was all response to what seemed to be player wants, right? Like, I don't want this, you know what I mean? And without any like follow through of what that would mean, it was just like decided. So you don't want to just put everything in the hands of the players. You just want somebody who can, it's Nikita's game, it's Nikita's vision. I think you and I get the most frustrated when we see a mechanic that represents a vision, and we as the players are at the mercy of this mechanic, and as people who've been in Tarkov for a really long time understand what the vision was. And you and me are most frustrated when we see that like giant disconnect, because if we were playing a different game and this was the mechanic, we would just be like, that's dumb or that's cool. But knowing that this is supposed to represent this blows my mind, because I'm like, that's not it at all. You know what I mean? So like, I want somebody that just connects the dots up there. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know who that is, and it's not just the players. It's not that simple either. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it's why you have an architect of a building put together plans, because they understand how if you put these rooms in this way, then we can distribute the weight of the beams like this, and then I know that these are going to be the materials you're going to want to do, because we understand the strength and the tensile and whatever, and then also this is going to work, and here's the square footage, and here are the measurements, and here's how you build everything. It's not up to them to determine, what color stone for the floors, what color to paint the walls. Like, that's up for somebody else.
Yeah.
But you can have a craftsman that can build a house because he knows how to use all the tools. He knows how to cut wood and put it together in a million different ways.
Yeah.
But the house is just going to be a cobbled together, incoherent thing, because he's going to build one room before he even thinks about the rest of the picture, and then he's going to build another room and realize like, oh fuck, I built an entire upstairs and there's no stairs. Oops, now I got to put in stairs, so he cuts a hole in the fucking floor, right? It's just, oh god.
Yep. Yep.
I just hate that we come up with these fucking genius ideas that's like, we're not geniuses.
No.
We're not experts. So the fact that we came up with it with the help of fucking Twitch chat and 10 minutes of shooting the shit means that if they had a proper game designer on their end, like the kinds of people that, come up with some of these amazing games like Red Dead Redemption and all this other stuff, they would have ended up with something 10 times better than that.
Yeah.
But instead, we end up with something 100 times worse than the idea we just came up with, right?
Yeah.
And the only way that we can communicate is by saying we don't like this little bit or this little bit, because we only get fucking 30 seconds to write a message to Nikita, and then the solution is, oh, we changed the negative scav karma penalty from 0.01 to 0.0001 or whatever. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
And now the system is the same hollow, just like bland shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, and there's like almost nothing to say. It is pretty like not defeating, but it's just like frustrating because we want, exactly like you said, I don't want to be responsible for coming up with the ideas. I just want the ideas to be thorough and thoughtful.
Yeah, I want my main goal these days for my videos is to try to trick like Nikita, like convince him that he needs some other people. Yeah. Whether it's an economist, to help out with the market, or whether it's a proper game designer to help, or UX person to help out with the menus or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to show him like, hey, dude, look at a game like Splinter Cell Blacklist, and you see the dude sitting up giving the GDC talk, explaining about all of these systems. It's like, dude, it's embarrassing when you look at that, and then you look at Tarkov, and I totally understand that it's a AAA team. We're talking about fucking Ubisoft versus BSG, but at the same time, look at the fucking graphics and some of the animations and stuff in Tarkov, and it's like some of the best in the fucking business.
Yeah.
So it's not unreasonable to say, get a guy like him on your fucking team who understands it. Yeah. But instead, his AI team is probably just a bunch of dudes who are probably decent programmers that aren't reading papers and watching talks and learning from like the fucking pros. Yeah. They're probably just winging it, and give them 10 years and they probably will reinvent what Ubisoft did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But stand on the fucking shoulders of giants and learn from literally every game from the last 30 years and put some of those fucking aspects into your game.
Yeah.
And it'll start to be like actually a candidate for the best game of all time, and not just the potentially best candidate currently biggest disappointment, like.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
I hope I can get him excited. And when I show him clips of shit, he's like, wow, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's cool. You spend fucking 4 years on the AI. Imagine if you knew about this YouTube video that I got from Googling good AI in video games and clicked on the first result. You know?
Yep.
I think I can get to him.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see.
And there's definitely something to be said. They're not like a tiny team anymore. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it too, right? Like they're building on the foundation of however small their team was when they were, putting out patch 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. Now they've sold, millions of copies of the game. They're in a different place,
and they have an AI team apparently now, which I don't think they had in the past. Yeah. So maybe I can inspire those guys.
And so there's like, I'm sure there's some complex things behind the scenes we don't know of on, you know what I mean? They're building, it's a live game. So they're building on top of code and AI that was written a really long time ago. I don't know how it is, but I definitely agree that it's like, I hope we can inspire them to like, bring on the right people. Maybe start from scratch in a few things if you have to, but push it in the right direction, Yep.
And here's where everybody writes the comments. Oh, such a fucking
dude.
Sad. Sometimes, you know what, guys? Sometimes life isn't all fucking roses and whatever the fuck else is a happy thing that sunshine.
Sometimes.
If you want things to be fucking better.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like it's just that. It's just like I want things to be good. I don't want things to be the way I want them to be. Like, of course, in some aspect I do, but like I normally do a pretty good job of like I'm trying to just filter through like what I think Nikita wants for the game. You know what I mean? Like what his vision is. it's that's my rubric, right? It's not just like I think it'd be cool to add laser beams, so I wish they would add laser beams. It's like, no, from understanding what Nikita wants this game to be, I think the way they implemented this is ineffective, and it could be more effective. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, take Nikita's vision for the game, and then put someone who knows what the fuck they're doing in terms of whether it's AI design or just game design in general, and then I'll stay out of it.
Yeah.
And I trust that whatever they're going to come up with is going to be dope, and there's going to be aspects that maybe I don't love, but it's going to be a better game.
Yeah.
But these days, because there is no designer, everybody is a fucking amateur designer because it just seems shitty, and we're all trying to come up with ways to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, when really now I've come to the conclusion that I'm fucking sick of being, you know, like I shouldn't be telling BSG how to do AI design, because all I've done is take a week and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and read some papers.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't feel like I'm more qualified. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
It's that's a bad sign. I mean, maybe that's hubris on my fucking end, but it's like, you know, when you fucking read like you're watching like a Unity AI 101 tutorial, and they've got like occlusion of sound and vision in 20 minutes with 47 lines of code that is better than Tarkov's. It's like, you know,
I mean,
like,
dude, that's real. That's real. Yep.
Maybe we'll get there. Maybe not.
We'll get there. Maybe not. I mean,
maybe I'll just play Super Mario 64 for the rest of my career and for always be the 600th fastest 16-star speedrunner on the leaderboard.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always pros and cons. Like, I have been very vocal about the fact that, in my opinion, Tarkov has, in me playing the game, Tarkov has never been more fun than right now. So many of these changes push the game in the positive direction. So many things, but it's just when the little things aren't as broken as they used to be, it just shows more and more how the big things are broken. And it feels like, you know, I'm sure some people are typing the comments that it feels like all we do is talk about AI right now, or all we do is talk about sound. It's like, well, the little things they've been buttoning up, you know what I mean? And it's just like, these things are just going to be the scourge of the game forever until they're fixed. And so I love the game. I'm having more fun than I've ever had playing it right now, but it's like, but at the same time, it's because I'm having fun playing it, and it's because I'm so passionate about the game that I'm going to criticize it and try and do what I can to push it towards that vision that he's laid out. So,
I mean, maybe we take 2 hours and it's just like, let's talk about the good raids we had over the last 48 hours. I think that's, well, I don't know
valuable.
What they're expecting.
Yeah. So
maybe that is. I don't know.
But yeah, so that was, I mean, dude, that was a good one. That was like over 2 hours. That was a long one. It was good conversation though. Really, dude, really solid ideas with some of the things for the karma. But yeah, so all we'll do is keep playing it. I don't know if you're gonna go back to playing Tarkov, but I hope you're probably not.
I don't know. Maybe not. No, I don't think today for my mental health.
I understand. But yeah, this is a good one. It's always good and cathartic for us to, like we were saying in the first half, to vent, to get some of it out there. And still very excited for this year. Like, I think, you know, the drops event and the holidays were super fun, but I think, like, I was super excited when 12.12 came out and we were like, yo, this is dope. And now they're on Unity. Maybe they can start pushing out some fixes and stuff like that. And then for like 2 weeks now, we've been tripped up on whatever has been going on in the back end. You know what I mean? With the queues and the back end errors and this stuff. So hopefully over the next few weeks and months that, like, if they can get through that, we can actually start getting some, I don't know, some changes or some sort of like feedback from them on how things are going and what their focus is. But we're getting there. So
yeah, and Nikita's more receptive than ever.
Yeah, which is a good sign. Yeah.
I complained about a couple of little tiny bugs here and there, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I get caught up on this. I don't know if I should. If you really want me to mention the whole, like, all the little tiny bugs around, I click this thing and a fucking error pops up, or I do part of a quest and, like, the thing doesn't pop up to tell me that I found RDM's car. Like, I have to open up the menu. And he's like, make a list for me. It'll be really helpful. Like, so now he wants me to make a list of all the little things.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm as, what's the word? I feel like things are gonna go well.
Hopeful, as optimistic.
Optimistic. I'm optimistic that like I think we have the ability to have Nikita hear some of these things, and I think he's really receptive. It's just what we have to do is we have to convince them of the things that they need to change, and then we have to try to, however we can, like, if they're going to take the time and redo stuff from scratch, like learn from, don't just redo all the quests from scratch with the same
logic.
You just have a bunch of random, anyway. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to say. It's good to know that Nikita is more receptive, and that like, and that exactly, they're not closed off to that. Like we know the bugs. That the attitude is like, dude, make a list, send it to me. It's a big game, it's a complex game. You know what I mean? Let me know. So that's a good thing. That's better than being like, the team is on it. Period. And end of conversation. So, So we'll see. I mean, I really still think I'm still holding that same opinion with how much content they put out in the last 3 months. I think this year could potentially be a good year. Hopefully they're just like, really, it's just at the end of the day, it's just, I hope their sights are set on the right things. I have no doubt they will accomplish many things this year. My hope is that their sights are set on the right things. That's a good way to put it.
It's January 13th, so we've got plenty of time.
100%. So thanks guys for hanging with us. Everyone that stops by live, it's a blast. I forgot to post the podcast on Spotify for like 3 days. People were like, why isn't it on Spotify for like 2 days? I was like, dude, it is. I posted it yesterday, and then it just hit me that I posted it to YouTube and just was done.
Nice.
So it'll be live. This one will be live on YouTube and Spotify and the podcast platforms early next week. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will definitely see y'all on the next one.
Peace.